Another difference between privateers and pirates was the conditions in which they lived and worked. On a privateer ship the captain was chosen by the owner. He had to be tough and able to make difficult decisions, but he also had to be intelligent. The men on both merchant ships and privateer ships received very little pay, were treated as inferior by the owners and officers, and were subject to physical abuse at the whim of their masters. Such abuse was legal, and more men died of being flogged than died in battle. Alexander Falconbridge, a surgeon who served aboard the ships of the Royal African Company, reported that one captain flogged a man to death for losing an oar. Another captain forced men to eat live cockroaches for his entertainment. Falconbridge is quoted extensively for such cruelties to both seamen and slaves in Hugh Thomas's The Slave Trade and Patrick Pringle's Jolly Roger, The Golden Age of Piracy. The slaves aboard such ships often were of more value to the captain than his own crew. The average mortality rate for slaves in the 17th century was 25%. It was often as high as 40% for the crew. The officers of the British Navy treated their own crews just as harshly. It was no wonder that when a pirate ship attacked a merchant ship, 62 piracy, a merry and a short life, the crew was eager to surrender. The pirates treated them better. Those who came aboard were treated as equals. Many were invited to join. Some were simply impressed by the lifestyle, but all were treated better. 400 years after the Templar fleet left France, the lodge system spawned in Templar preceptories, and Cistercian monasteries was alive aboard the pirate ships. The ship's rules were determined by articles that each man signed. The men voted on such rules in a democratic fashion. One man, one vote. Rules included not taking women aboard, as they could cause friction, not discussing religion, as it too could cause conflict, and spelling out tasks and duties. On a pirate ship the captain was elected by the entire crew. Like a privateer captain, he had to be tough and intelligent. He had to be well liked too, as his crew could simply unelect him. Shares were determined, and the job of the captain and the quartermaster was to ensure equal shares to all members of the crew. The crew on both pirate and privateer ships would sail for a share in the voyage. On the privateer ship the captain's share and that of the high-ranking officers were greater than the crew's. On many pirate ships all bounty was shared in a fairer way. The captain and the quartermaster might get a double share. A highly proficient crew member could get a share and a half. An injured pirate who was unable to return to sea might be given a greater share to aid his retirement. The average sailor on a pirate ship had a better chance of making a windfall profit for the risks and hardships he endured. Some took their shares and went back to the farm. Sometimes an agreement was struck, so that all sailors remained together until every man had a certain amount of money. Life was potentially dangerous for the pirate, but the dangers were not in attacking enemy shipping. Very rarely was a merchant ship willing to mount a defense, and few pirate ships were ever captured outside of ports. One pirate historian reports that brothel casualties were higher than battle casualties. The greatest risk a pirate might endure was expulsion by his fellow sailors. Marooning, or expelling a pirate from a crew, took place on a desert island or sometimes on a sandbar that would disappear at high tide. Pirates were usually marooned only for the worst of under a black flag 63 offences, which included abandoning their posts during battle. The term maroon was coined from what the Spanish called Cimarrones, the group of people created from the marriage of escaped black slaves to native Amerindian women. Life at sea was equally dangerous for the criminal pirate and the legitimate privateer, as the common threats injury, imprisonment, and death did not favour one type of sailor. For example, a privateer sailing against Spain was a criminal in the eyes of the Spanish crown, as was a pirate operating anywhere. Both could suffer equally for their offences, and death was the most common punishment. The difference was that the pirate stood a better chance of making a profit. As a result, pirate ships often had little problem defeating better armed naval ships, merchant ships, and privateer ships. Many times the crew of the captured ship was happy to join the pirates, and they were often delighted to see a cruel captain subject to his own medicine. Captain Kidd and the pirates Kidd knew the risks and the rewards of piracy. What happened aboard the adventure galley to induce the captain and crew to go pirate will probably never be known. But Kidd was low on supplies, had little to trade, and had a crew that was most likely unhappy with the long months at sea and his harsh leadership and lack of profit. With his leadership and judgment in question and his reward system poor, it is surprising that he was able to recruit veteran pirates. However he did it. He set out from St. Mary's as a pirate. Twice Kidd brought his ship to within threatening distance of British protected shipping, and twice he was turned away. Finally he captured a lone trading ship from Bombay flying the English colours. Upon meeting the ship's captain, Kidd found out that he was already considered a pirate. Word travelled quickly. Kidd soon took 3 more ships, including the valuable Quetta merchant in January 1698. With his new fleet, he now broke all the rules and attacked an East India Company ship. He left the coast of India 60 for piracy, a merry and a short life with his prizes, and headed for Madagascar, where he spent 6 months, before heading back to North America. It is hard to believe that an experienced captain such as Kidd would think that he could return to New York and escape punishment because of his connections, but that appears to have been the case. The Earl of Bellomont, now the governor of New York, actually came to Kidd's defense. The governor said he received reports that Kidd was forced by his men to act as a pirate. But Bellomont was in an awkward position. Having replaced Fletcher, who had given a commission to the pirate Thomas Tew, Bellomont had to be careful not to cast himself in the same light. He also was entitled to a large commission, should he issue a pardon. Kidd, however, had gone too far. The capture of the Quetta merchant had caused rioting in the streets of Surat, where the British East India Company maintained its offices. The company was already blamed for any acts of European piracy, but this time the ship belonged to a member of the Indian Emperor's court. This news eventually reached New York well before Kidd. Bellomont had to distance himself from the situation and cut his losses. The governor of what is now New York and Massachusetts had never seen Boston, and he traveled there on May the 26th.